About all of this is Savante Myrick, the president of People for the American Way and former mayor of Ithaca, New York, and Republican strategist and consultant Mara Gillespie, who also formerly served as a leadership aide to former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Thank you both for being with us here today. First, I want to get your initial thoughts on what you saw and heard last night at President Trump's rally. He promised, a softer, unified tone going forward. One, do you think we got that? And two, does that tone shift matter to voters going forward? Mara, I want to start with you.
Sure. I worked for Speaker John Boehner, just want to clarify there. But I do think that with President Trump, his tone, what we were hoping to hear at the RNC speech on Thursday, we only got for about 15 minutes, and then it really did turn back into the rally speeches that we are more familiar with, which what he did in Michigan. I think speaking for 2 hours is a long time when not much of it is really in substance about what you're going to do as president. A lot of it is more inflammatory. And I do think that's a disservice considering the fact that Republicans are poised to really do well this election, and it would be better for us as a party and as a country to have an idea of which direction we're actually headed with tangible, substantive ideas and policies, and not just saying inflammatory things like you're going to deport the largest deportation in the world. I mean, that's just, again, that's riling up your 2016 base, and I think that's really what we're seeing from the former president, both in his pick for J.D. Vance as his vice president nominee, but in his language is to rile up those 2016 voters who have never been politically active before and came out for him and then didn't really come out in 2020, and so he's making sure they come out for him now.
And Savante, I want to get your thoughts.
Yeah, the question is, did he have a unifying tone? No. Did that surprise us? No. The man is 77 years old. And for most of his life, I think all of his public life, he's only looked out for himself. And he's gotten by in a strategy of viciousness and cruelty. Even when he was an actor on The Celebrity Apprentice, his tagline was not, "You're hired." It wasn't, "We're going to unite the country." It was what? It was, "You're fired." He is who he is. And the moment he opened his mouth, all the same old stuff came out. And that should be concerning for Republicans. Democrats are obviously, doing the sorts of things that we do right now. But we're having serious grown-up adult conversations about the top of our ticket. And we're doing it without inter-party fighting and insults. Meanwhile, I think the Republicans are facing squarely what is, and this is awkward to say because he's dominated the party for so long, a perennially losing candidate. Right? I mean, Trump lost. He's never won the popular vote in any election he stood for. Right? He lost it in 2016, but won the Electoral College. So, okay, he took office. 2018, it was a landslide for Democrats. 2020, he lost again. 2022, people expected a red wave. But in large part, due to his divisive and cruel nature, the Democrats won in 2022. So I think the Republicans find themselves attached to, and I know how much he would hate to hear this, so I hope he's not listening, but to kind of the biggest loser in Republican party politics, which is Donald Trump.
Well, we sure hope Donald Trump watches Scripps News, but and the Democrats do have a lot of infighting going on right now. This is an unprecedented situation going on with, should Joe Biden step aside? But I want to keep the focus here on the Republican Party, this rally last night, and talk a little bit about vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance. How do you each think that he's going to impact this race and voters? Mara, I'll start with you.
Sure. I think he was selected because of the fact that he has the Midwest background, former military. But again, I think a big part of it is that Trump really does feel as though he has this in the bag. And so it was an easy selection. I believe, J.D. Vance is going to speak to those 2016 voters, those who felt disenfranchised by the entire political system and didn't want to get involved until they felt like they were being heard or spoken to. And he's much of an isolationist, and it's a big departure from why I joined the Republican Party and why I am still conservative, because of our strong foreign policy, because of our belief in a smaller, more accountable government. J.D. Vance doesn't really represent either of those things, but it is interesting because I think, again, to the point I made earlier about Trump's decision making, it is because, one, he's not threatened by a J.D. Vance. Two, he's younger, so it appeases that portion of the call that both he and Biden are pretty up there in age. But again, he's not, somebody who is going to threaten him or try and tamper him down in any capacity. I believe former President Trump is going full steam ahead in his MAGA ways, and that's being reflected by his vice president pick. One thing really quickly I do want to say, though, is the Republicans did opt to have 14 different people run for the presidential nominee during the primary. Democrats chose not to, despite Dean Phillips saying, it's time to pass the torch. So I think, giving Republicans some credit here is that they did try to put another candidate forward. But, they ended up with Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, so here we are.
Savante, we're out of time, but I'll give you 20 seconds if you want to, respond to your thoughts on J.D. Vance and what he adds to the ticket.
Yeah, it's a great point. I couldn't agree more. I think it shows a sign of high confidence. The glaring and obvious trouble the Republicans are going to have are with women and the issue of choice. J.D. Vance has said that he wants a national abortion ban and even wants to make it harder for women to divorce abusive husbands. You wouldn't choose this person unless you felt confident you could turn your base out. I think they may be overplaying their hand, though.
It will certainly be interesting to see how this ticket continues on the campaign trail. We'll have you both back to discuss more. Savante Myrick and Mara Gillespie, thank you so much. We appreciate it.